So I figured let's get going, and Jonathan will join us as soon as he can. Uh, Good evening, everyone. My name is Dwayne Joseph. I am one of the co-chairs of the Brooklyn Community Board 14's Youth Service Committee. My fellow co-chair, Mr. Jonathan Judge, is running a little late. He'll be joining us a little bit later. We're officially beginning this meeting at 6:35 on Monday, February 22nd, 2021. Um, Greetings on behalf of the committee and the board. I would like to just kind of quickly run through what the topics on the agenda are for tonight, and then we can get started. So we're going to be covering the Youth Leadership Council planning. For you, those you don't know or haven't been following us, we are trying to get a Youth Leadership Council started. So we're going to just discuss the planning and where we are with that. We're also going to discuss planning for our 2021 Youth Conference. If you didn't know, CB14 is a leader in not only the community amongst community boards, but just in the community in general, in putting together an annual youth conference. This will be our 14th annual youth conference. So, 14 years strong of seeing at least 600 plus young people come out to try and get opportunity at internships and jobs for the summer. And then we have, open session to discuss any other business. Um, so we encourage those of you, hopefully there have been a few people that have registered to speak. There are a few people on the call we may call out because we think they may have some input and things to offer the board. Jonathan, I just saw you pop up.
Yep, I'm here. Finally got
All
here.
right, so
Sorry for being behind.
no worries. Just introducing the agenda, and before we get going, I'd like to acknowledge a few people on the meeting or participating in the meeting tonight. We have with us Police Officer Michael Joseph from the 70th Precinct's Community Affairs Unit, newly appointed Community Affairs Officer, but longtime officer in the 70 and a friend of the board and the community. Welcome, Officer Joseph. Good evening. I also want to acknowledge Monique Chandler Waterman. She's here from, correct me if I'm wrong, it's Health and Hospitals and the contact tracing.
Test and trace. Test and trace. Thank you, Dwayne. Hi, everybody.
I think that's pretty much everybody. And then I guess we can get going and start to draw into the agenda. So to the first item on the agenda, the Youth Leadership Council. As I mentioned kind of very briefly, CB14 has been working over the last maybe year and a half to put together a Youth Leadership Council. It's an opportunity for us as a board to try and reach out to the next generation of the community to hopefully get them more engaged and more involved. It's actually an initiative that's been spearheaded by a few people and has our gracious district manager, Sean Campbell, has taken on the task of taking a lot of this work to try and make it happen. And I want to just acknowledge her for that. We appreciate it. It is not something easy pulling together, this kind of thing. And she's done a really good job in keeping us on task and keeping us tracking in the direction that to the point that we're at right now, and hopefully we'll move further on in the near future. With that, Sean, if you wouldn't mind giving us an update on where we are at so far in our process.
Well, thanks for your kind words, but really, I have to even more than share them with Anya, because she does. I always say it's the heavy lifting, but it really means the bulwark of the work. And Anya you may have all noticed, because I know that you so regularly check the website, so you may have noticed that it's up, that there is, for our conversation from the last meeting and the report out at the board meeting, our February board meeting, we have a sort of soft opening, as they say in the business world, a soft opening for the application. It's up there, and it went up either late last week or today. But I think the language is what we got input on that language, and there's a form that young people can fill out to express their interest. And then I might actually, if it's all right with the co-chairs, punt to Anya, because just to let you know to whom we've so if anybody's looking at the website, they'll see it and they can respond, but we've also pushed it out. And maybe Anya, do you want to detail who got an email or heads up that it's up there and it's an opportunity that exists now?
So we will just keep working on this project going forward, but what we started with was just a sort of selective email, and what I'm doing is sorting our big giant list. For those of you who know about the youth conference, we work with lots of organizations, and our organization list, I think, is about 800 different names on it, I think is what we have. So luckily they've all been sorted with addresses and everything. So what I'm doing is just sorting by zip code and then sending out invitations individually to groups, especially the ones from our 4 zip codes that are part of the district, and then the groups who have participated really actively in the youth conference with the youth component. Not so much the recruiters, but the more youth-led organizations that come to our youth conference. So it's ongoing. We should have hopefully like the first batch of about 100, very specialized invitations. So they're going with the name of the organization to them and sort of thinking about what they do. So that's how we're starting. And then as soon as we can, judge the more local interest, then we'll do the big blast and get it out there to everyone. But just sort of like Sean said, the soft opening. So getting sort of a feeling, some feedback, see if we need to adjust anything before we send it out to the entire world.
Can I just ask Anya, in that initial reach out, did we hit the local high schools?
We did not send any out to schools yet. So that's definitely a great idea. And I would encourage any thoughts like that you have, just get them rolling into me. And I'll start, you can even put them in the chat tonight if you want, or by email. That's a great idea. We do have a whole list of parent coordinators for all the local schools. So we can definitely, I'm not sure with COVID and changes and stuff, but absolutely, great idea.
Okay. All right. So if anybody is interested, you can check out the link. Both Anya and I dropped the link into the chat. But if you go onto the main site, I think it's very much near the top of the page. Yeah, it's the second or third thing listed at the top of the page, right under the PS90 task force meeting announcement and the March meeting announcement, which just a quick jump in, make sure you share that information with your neighbors and friends, get them out to the March meetings as much as you can. That's my little 2 cents. And I will, unless Sean, you have any additional updates?
I do. I just want to add one other thing, because Jonathan was good about keeping us in balance on what we're doing in terms of the youth outreach, but also keeping the board engaged and on task and maintaining the enthusiasm that's been expressed not only by members of this committee, but members serving on other committees as well. And so we'll do a friendly reminder to committee co-chairs and to, I have to think about this a little bit more, but I think to full committees, with the co-chair sort of taking the lead on ensuring that each committee has a point person on that committee who's willing to do the online training with the YLC, so that there's a kind of sort of mentor in each committee.
And I'm going to just add one thing as well. Oh, go ahead, John.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, feel free right now. It's also been tweeted out. I just forgot to mention that. So if anyone's on Twitter, feel free to tweet that broader, and feel free to share that post that we do have up, especially with any young individuals that you might know that would be a good thing.
Cool. So I want to, per our last meeting, I want to make sure that we go over sort of the details of what we're proposing, but we're going to report out to the board about the Youth Leadership Council. And so, Sean, I know that the office prepared a summary that went out with the February meeting notice. of sort of like the letter and then sort of what the board member obligations were. I just want to know if has anything changed from there or been sort of like figured out or tweaked since that went out? Like in terms of where we wrote down what the proposed sort of agenda structure would be for the Youth Leadership Council, the board member obligation, those parts, which I don't think are on the website post with all the other information, because that's not like for the public, that's more for the board.
Right.
So I'm just trying to get a sense of if anything has changed from that document that was emailed out earlier. I think at the end of January, right? You see what was it?
I haven't done anything with that document other than pulling off what was going on the website. So for the internal document, no, and it hasn't been distributed to the full board.
Oh,
I don't think. Anya,
I think
was
it
it?
did. I think it was.
I think it was.
Okay. Then I'm a little bit lost in terms of what we've done.
Oh, so I figured this is a good time for us to sort of just go over the summary of it, and I could sort of like riff on it quickly on what I'm reading here, and then I guess we could just sort of at least, if there's any need to hash out the details further, or if everyone's okay with it, then we'll just say that that's what we're going on. So in terms of the suggested outline for how the program of the Youth Leadership Council would function, we would introduce CB14 to the the Youth Leadership Council applicants, the district manager, CB14, and service delivery, the chair of CB14 meetings, co-chairs from each committee, topics and recent issues. So sort of doing the first meeting of the Youth Leadership Council would be introducing the applicants, all the applicants, to just sort of the overall functions of the community board, who the key people are in our committees and in the board leadership, sort of what the basic functions are of the community board in relation to city services, and sort of what are the hot button topics that we're sort of working on, or would be opportunities for the applicants to maybe sink their teeth into, as one might say, as part of being involved in Leadership Council. So that's what the proposed sort of sketch of what the first Youth Leadership Council meeting agenda would be. I don't know how I want to go through this, Joanne. I don't know if you have any feelings on it. I figured I'd just kind of read this in chunks and then see if there were any comments or questions about it. Does it seem sound? Oh, you're on mute, Joanne.
Sorry, didn't realize I was on mute. If we could surmise it in any way, I think that would be helpful. Because I think it was already distributed to the board members, but
I mean, we could dispense with it if everyone here feels that they have read enough, and since nothing new has been proposed, maybe only if there are questions. I don't know where everybody is on that.
why don't we suggest this then? If we could just, Anya or Sean, if we could just recirculate it to board members as a reminder, and then if they have questions, they can submit them to the board so that we can address them either at the general board meeting, or we can address them directly. We can collaborate, respond, and just send an email back out.
Are there any questions from anyone right now who has read it? And maybe we can deal with some of that now. I guess I want to open the floor on that one.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Trady Duke. I'm the program director of East Flatbush Village. Thank you guys for having me on. Sorry, my video is not working right now. Can you hear my audio?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. So I was informed that you guys have a youth symposium coming up, and I work with a lot of youth community, and I wanted to just send up my hand if you guys need any help with helping get some more youth on. If you need a partner, I would be more than happy to help you guys with that program and event next month. So I'm just putting my help on up there. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you offering, and I'm sure we will take you up on that.
And
Great
to
people.
We operate on the goodwill of all the people in our community in all different capacities.
And I have a question. You're looking for youth to join this youth Leadership Council.
Mhm.
So we're hearing, because you're gonna
Yes.
form, it's gonna be actually, so I know Chady probably came on a little bit later, but I know he was also interested. We discussed about the youth that he worked with, also probably participating in the community board in this. It would be a great step for
Exactly.
them to get engaged.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a big part of the purpose behind the Youth Leadership Council is to sort of create sort of like a junior community board experience so that they can learn the importance of active participation in local government and what is going on in service delivery and zoning and important decisions that affect their lives, maybe not now, but maybe affect them 30 years from now. And everyone wonders, how did that happen? Oh, wait, well, there's the community board meeting on it. What it was.
Yeah, that's
So this-
beautiful. I would love my folks to be part of that. That'd be really amazing.
Terrific. Terrific. Great. Thank you for that.
And so I just put this in the chat, but Chidi and Monique, please encourage the young people you know who you believe would be interested in contributing to and gaining from participation in the Youth Leadership Council to fill out the online application, the request for interest form that's online now. It's about the third thing down on the webpage, but we'll try to keep it up top so it's easy to find.
Thank you so much for that.
Okay, just to ask this question too, with the youth, would they be like a intro to explain to them what this process is? Or can we have a guest speaker, because we do a lot of virtual events with the youth, where we can explain this process, give them the application, have them fill it out, go through the whole thing, and so they can really truly understand?
Monique, I think if you take a look at that link, you will find a lot of helpful resources that are right there that explain it, that bring you to the citywide YLC, and that sort of tease out what the Youth Leadership Council will do and what it will look like vis-a-vis the community board itself.
Okay, thank you.
And in our draft of it, the first meeting agenda proposed was sort of that intro pass. The second, I'm just going to go through it really quickly, I guess, at this point. The second meeting agenda would be maybe focusing on a guest speaker from Service NYC or from another Youth Leadership Council, and kind of start creating that space to go like, hey, this is how it now works to be on a Youth Leadership Council, and to start getting the participants, the members of it, to think about the goals and the issues they want to tackle, and use that second meeting as that opportunity to start getting the wheels turning, centered around not only like how they're going to go about the process of working together on achieving those goals, like what's our procedure, how are we going to meet, sort of like what's our organization charts, things of that fundamental nature, but also then think about how to use our youth conference as a vehicle for it. So kind of tying all those youth programs together in one place. So that's sort of the initial plan. Whenever we, I guess, sort of like, yep, we're going ahead with this officially, we plan that first meeting, depending on the applicants we get, to do intro. Second meeting will be really to say, okay, how do you want to go do this work now together? And have like, a speaker or something to facilitate that. Sean, does that seem like an accurate summarization of it?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, and then the last part here, and I think Sean honestly, I don't think there's a reason for going into more in depth, but what we're proposing is that the full board is going to participate in this in a very material way. Each of the committees are going to essentially identify a mentor that is going to serve as the liaison and mentor of their committee, the Youth Leadership Council, on whatever projects or issues we're working on. And that's sort of the concerted effort that we will all be making, plus the board and the district manager's office would facilitate planning and putting together and hosting Youth Leadership Council meetings, in addition to the normal calendar of committee and full board meetings that public hearings that we normally do. So that's sort of the high level steps there. Each committee would have like a youth, as you put it, facilitator, or youth mentor, and it would work in concert between the Youth Council and the respective committee to make sort of all the youth leadership programming happen. Again, is that fair and accurate summarization?
I think so. I think I might be saying the same thing a different way, but the concept is that each member of the Youth Leadership Council also serves on one of the standing committees of Community Board 14, so that there's a youth voice at each committee meeting. And then there's also standing committee issues become the reporting out the Leadership Council participants do at their LC meetings. Ultimately, the goal is for the Youth Leadership Council to hold their meetings rather independently once they get oriented to the community and to the committees, that ultimately they'll be independent, but that will be their touchstone back to the board. Does that sound like the way we've described it before? So there's not always going to be a board member hanging out at every single Youth Leadership Council meeting, that they'll have their autonomy to discuss youth issues as well as bringing back committee reports.
You're muted, Jonathan.
Get on mute. That's so weird. I'm not gonna.
No, it's me. Sorry, guys. There's a lot of feedback tonight, so Dwayne and John, if you guys don't mind quickly muting yourself, I was trying to catch it before you came back on. Sorry, but when you're
Okay, sorry about that. No worries.
thank you, no problem.
So I think that's an accurate summary of what we talked before. I do think I am curious to think a little bit more about exactly how that autonomy is going to go. I mean, we have 14 to 20-year-olds. If people are meeting in person, where would they meet? Are we really leaving it that up to them? And will there be no either staff or board member liaison, at least at the meeting, just to sort of be on top of what happened? And I don't know what the other.
When we get to the point where we're meeting in person, we can certainly deal with that then. Yeah, those meetings would be in the office, and there would have to be a staff. We don't even let our grown-up committee members meet without staff present. So we will take care of the staffing of that for sure.
Okay, that seems to be the question that I had. That I kind of wanted to have a clear answer what the plan would be. So, Dwayne, I'll turn it over to you if you have any.
No, I mean, I'm satisfied with that. I'll actually punt it back to you as the more experienced person with the youth conference to start discussing our planning.
Oh, okay. So before we do that, I just want to make sure that there are no committee members, board members, anyone from the community has questions about what we've talked about and what we're going to propose to the full board to get this Youth Leadership Council off the ground. Is there any other questions or concerns, thoughts, anything, especially from other board members? You can raise your hand or just unmute yourself. Yeah. It's hard for me to see.
No hands are raised, Jonathan.
All right. Okay, so I think we know what we're going to propose at the March meeting about what we're going to do. Sounds good. That means it's one step closer to happening officially. So it's very exciting. Okay, youth conference. So again, I'm going to just punt this back to Sean and Anya, because again, in this breakdown, we had something of a high-level sketch. Just want to see if there are any updates on, because what we had talked about is for our 14th annual youth conference, just to give everyone a quick reminder, is in order to make sure it happens at all this year, we're just going to play it relatively safe and go virtual. That will be a first for us. And though other organizations have certainly done this and have, there's a model for us to follow, it will be something of an experiment for us. So rather than trying to push it in March, like we normally would under, in the before times, we're going to aim more for May and give us more time to just, organize and get our details sorted out for this, particularly in context with some of the other programming the board is doing throughout, just to make this more efficient and give us the space to do it. So, so the plan is to go virtual. And before I go any further, I don't know if Sean, Anya, if there's anything you want to add on that front before we proceed.
Only that the last time we spoke about this, we talked about enlisting the services of a company that does online conferencing. And we did some research into that. And thus far, we've only found really professional, high level, real conference kind of organizations, and they cost a pretty penny. They're way out of our budget. And when they found out that we were government and worked with nonprofit, they offered us deals that were still way out of our budget. So I'm reaching out to other organizations that have had events online. And this is also a shout out to anybody on this meeting tonight. If you know anybody or have participated in an online event that is, you know, sort of more technical or higher level than, you know, than these meetings, please make a referral, because we'll reach out to the, to Harris Studio, who hosted our earlier meetings before we caught up to the WebEx platform. And I did speak to somebody for whom they did a more elaborate event than just a regular meeting. So we'll see what their capacity and what their constraints are. But we really are in the market for somebody who can host us, so that, and maybe I'm getting ahead of the conversation, but so that we can talk about ways of doing more than one thing at a time, so that a participant might have a choice in that moment to either be on this workshop or that workshop, and how to do, you know, Q&A in real time and stuff like that. But I think how elaborate we get might depend on the platform access that we can find given our budgetary constraints.
That is entirely fair. And it would be an expensive thing to hire an event planner for that. I guess here are the questions, and I guess this would be like an open to the audience. Has anyone here worked directly with or attended an online conference since the pandemic started that featured some variation of an exhibition space with tables and workshops that they may be able to share as like a potential model for us? And I don't know if that's even true, Sean or Anya, if you've also done any kind of like virtual events like that that you've attended or whatever in the last year.
Glenn and Nina both have hands up, and then I'll talk about the task force a little bit.
Okay. Glenn, how about you go first?
Thank you. Sean, when you say way outside of our budget, could you give me an idea of what you're talking about?
$20,000.
That's a bit outside of our budget. Okay, thank you.
Nina?
So I have done a number of things over the past year that have involved breakout rooms and things like that. But I'm just kind of wondering if maybe, you know, Brooklyn College, maybe, you know, somebody, you know, students and their, you know, IT or something like that might be interested in putting something together, maybe for a very small fee, like, you know, like a stipend or something, or even as a project for their course. Yes.
We can figure out a way to check in with them. And Sen has a very interesting line in the chat that he's actually organized. That's in development. Do you want to?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, chairs.
Sorry, I apologize if the baby's crying in the background. I put together, this was my first time taking a shot at this as well, with the nonprofit I work for. But it was well attended, but I would highly suggest having pre-recorded content, and to Nina's point of just creating breakout rooms. But I would definitely say having an MC or someone run the show on just interacting with the audience, but also having someone doing tech, being on point with tech is highly recommended as well. And I'm happy to chat offline to share more information.
So on that note, since Ed, you said you've done this, what was because I think part of the issue here for us to be able to really move forward and telling people what to do in terms of like what the organizations have to do and so forth. What was the nature of it? I mean, was it that everybody did like a 3-minute segment, like as opposed to having a table? Was there like breakout rooms that were moderated or facilitated by a person that kind of hung out in like a Zoom breakout room? Like what were like the overall mechanics of it?
So the format for us was really our honorees. We had pre-recorded content honoring them, guest speakers that we wanted to highlight, and there were some musical elements. So again, this is more of a visual production rather than a conference. But in terms of this virtual format, I would imagine it's similar as far as just building out a specific programming and working with that. In terms of having workshops, I think the breakout rooms on Zoom would be an ideal way to facilitate that.
Okay, I think that's very helpful to know. Does anyone else have anything to contribute on this front? I don't know if anyone can raise their hand.
Well, if I could jump in here, I mean, I have worked with someone that's done an actual youth conference online with breakout sessions and whatnot. So I'm going to reach out to them to see. I'm hoping it's not in that $20,000 range, or maybe they, maybe because that's slightly outside of the budget. Slightly.
We don't pay that for an in-person conference, you know.
Listen. But I'll reach out. I mean, maybe if they can't do it themselves, maybe they know of an organization that might be able to assist or would want to assist, similar to what Glenn was suggesting. Oh, I'm sorry, Anina was suggesting about just doing it for some sort of credibility and some clout, and maybe. But I'll give it a shout.
Cool.
So, Jonathan,
Yes.
there, being the tech person, is there any way for you to have a group and have it facilitated that way without having like an overhead cost?
Well-
That is like really great, because I attended a seminar and they had breakout rooms. It was hundreds of people. I really don't know how much it cost, but it really worked really well with the presenters, in whatever rooms you went into, and then regather in the main room, and then you'd go to the next, whatever feature you were selecting or workshop you were selecting. But I was thinking, so what do you think, Sean and Jonathan?
Well, I'll say just off the top of my head, this is me being the solution architect I am. This is sort of my natural instinct professionally. I have a problem. I know exactly what I would do. I would probably use something called Restream. I like the advice of having pre-recorded content. If we had all of the organizations and businesses do a 3-minute or a 2-minute segment, we could use Restream, broadcast it on YouTube, and that would be the exhibition space. What we could have at the same time is a giant Zoom event, which means you just pay for the webinar package or you pay for upgrading the size. So we could have, well, in this case, we might get over 1,000 people. We might have to pay, but that's usually very inexpensive, maybe a couple $100. You could have the mock interviews going on in certain breakout rooms and moderate that. And you could have the workshops going on where there's like more of a Q&A kind of a dynamic. And you could have that simultaneous with the YouTube live stream. Now, that may seem a little crazy because you want people to sit and watch all of the tables, but at the same time, by doing it on YouTube, anyone could go back and watch whatever anybody said, and it would be subject to the least amount of technical glitches, because if everything was pre-recorded and it's just broadcasting a queue of pre-recorded videos on the YouTube live stream during the event, then you are going to have a much easier time managing all the details, and really we could then get away with the volunteer base that we usually have. So that's
that sounds a lot like my loose vision, but articulated very well. So thank you for that. We have a guest online with us who has had a hand up named Yvette Clairton.
Yeah, please.
Good evening, everyone. I, in the fall, attended a conference, a virtual conference online on the Hop-In platform. And the platform was very interactive and allowed for real-time presentations, different sessions happening in different rooms. So you can have different panel discussions, speakers, presentation videos. I'm not sure of the cost, but I think it is something worth exploring. It's HOP, HOPNIN. And I put the link to the website in the chat.
Awesome.
Looking at
Thank
it
you
right
for
now.
that.
Yeah.
Also, Jonathan and Anya and Sean, once again, what about having like businesses within the community make donations? Is that a possibility towards
No,
getting those?
no,
No.
no.
Okay. Just wanted to.
We have a budget and we're not going to raise that kind of money. I think just I just think it's not a good time to ask businesses for money. We should be
Okay.
giving them more money to do business.
I
So,
guess.
and we really don't
Right.
have a vehicle for accepting that anyway. So, you know, I appreciate I appreciate where that came from, but I just practical, we don't have the ability in a practical way.
Okay. Gotcha.
But the idea
thank you
of
for asking.
buying software like a Hopin sort of software, if it does fall within it, and maybe, you know, we can justify even more budget for something that we're going to buy and own and be able to use for virtual. This might be, you know, our foreseeable future for years to come, where even when we can host in-person events, we also complement that with virtual participation options. Where we can do this for the years ahead might not be a bad investment for our board.
I agree. And just a cursory glance, the monthly fee is relatively low. And the only thing where we would run into trouble is they ding you a little fee for each participant registration over 100, and it's 50 cents. But if we did think of what we've done in the past in terms of some of the contributions that we've gotten for past conferences, it's possible that might fall within the range, whether it's something the office could do or if that's something that we could do we could figure out some conduit or whatever to do that. So that might be possible. And again, there's definitely lower cost options that may not be as nice as Hopin, but we could do that too if worst comes to worst, right? I think this Hopin option might actually be a good one to explore. Thank you for sharing that, Yvette. That was very helpful. I didn't know that existed, so that's really great. Okay, so I mean, for where we are, I think we obviously have to kind of narrow down the way we're going to do the conference to do much else, because we have to then all the expectations for both the registrants, for the teams that are showing up, and the organizations and the businesses, how they participate is all going to depend on that. So I don't know if there's anything else that we could materially discuss prior to knowing where this is going to take place and how. But I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there to Dwayne and Sean, Anya, if you have anybody else have any questions about that too. So.
I mean, from my perspective, we should be starting to look at kind of run a show, get an idea of what we would like to see. Because realistically, if we're looking at platforms, we need to know what it is we're going to be asking or looking for these platforms to be able to do. So whether that's breakout rooms, whether that's recorded sessions, can they handle registration for us? So we should be really thinking about that. If Sean and Anya are open to it, I would love to be able to get that, maybe get a poll going, and just have people, reach back out to the board to say what kind of things they'd like to see. And then we kind of, between us as chairs and the other committee members, figure out what we want it to look like and plan it out a little bit that way. But that should be a quick process, if anything, if that makes sense.
Dwayne, may I?
Yes.
What we have talked a similar outline to the way our conferences have been hosted before, which is to have sort of a tabling room, which Jonathan kind of just outlined a clever way of doing that. So it's kind of on a loop.
Okay.
And Joanne is on this. Joanne Brown is also on this call, chair of the Human Services Committee, and we are actually planning a human service or a nonprofit roundtable on March 23rd. So coming right up. So we might be able to sort of use some of our lessons learned or the way we go about doing that for this. But
Okay.
so the idea is to have and we might have to curate more than we've done in the past and not have 80 participants. But if we have a group of, if we have a sort of loop of roundtable, there's a tabling portion would be the organization sort of introducing themselves and spelling out their programs and providing how to get involved into the chat. And we could keep that open while at the same time there are maybe 3 or 4 20-minute live presentations with a Q&A portion of those presentations. And they can happen if we have 3, but they go 2 or 3 different times so that young people have the opportunity to go to yours for the first 20 minutes and then go to another one for the next 20 minutes and then another one for the third one. So that's kind of the template that we had talked about before that kind of more closely mimics what we've done, how we've done this before. Then we've got to figure out how we would add in the online interviews, if we can still do the mock interviews. So those were the 3 components, and that's kind of how we described doing them, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. I just wanted to have like some sort of framework, because looking at the platforms are nice. It's great that we can start looking at them, but we should be knowing what we want out of them. So just an idea of mitigating some of the costs, because these things can get pretty expensive.
Yeah, I mean, that's, for all intents and purposes, I mean, we do have to factor that in, right? We don't have this giant budget where we could pull it off. I guess it's just, yeah, if we're going to modify anything really fundamental about the format, I think each of the components we've offered in the past, which is the exhibition space, the breakout workshops, and by the way, we did the mock interviews really as the only thing. I think the last time we didn't even do any separate breakout rooms. We had done that for 2 years in a row, but definitely last year. So there are analogs to all of that, and there are a bunch of different configurations that we could come up with for that. So I think it's just a question of, do we want to offer that same experience where there's some wandering, right? Like I show up, I see what's around, and I see who I want to talk to. We could have the organizers all post a Zoom link for maybe even host the Zoom link for them or whatever. So each organization or business has a Zoom room, and then people could jump into it and ask questions with the person while this run of show is going on behind the scenes. So there's wandering of 2 kinds. I could sit there and watch, or I could hop into rooms and have conversations one-on-one, very much so like the conference experience we've had. The mock interviews is really just a bunch of private breakout rooms based on how many mock interviewers we have. We can have everyone who wants to queue up for that show up into the Zoom room, and then we would have, like we did last time, a person go in and assign them to a breakout room when it's open. So, if that sounds like the format we want to continue with, then I think we have options. I think we have readily available, inexpensive options to do that. If there is something fundamentally different we want to try because it's virtual, I mean, that's also something maybe we could think about one tweak to experiment with too.
Sorry, finding my unmute button. That works for me.
Okay, so I guess let's explore the Hopin platform. Let's see what it would cost if we were to go that route. I think I looked at it. It does registration. It has an expo portion. It has a breakout room portion. It has everything we would want. The question is, of course, what would be the cost if we wind up getting, especially now? I mean, we've gotten several hundred teens to show up in person during a blizzard at the Flatbush YMCA. What's going to happen if it's online? Will it be more? Will it be less? I have no idea, but there will be a cost associated with it for sure.
And I would just like to make one more comment about cost. I was maybe unclear, and I just want the board members to know, I believe we have cushion in the budget so that we can cover the cost of this within reason. But I just want to underscore the idea of what's within reason, because even if we had an excess $20,000 in our budget, I don't know if it's proper for a small city. I mean, people spend that kind of money running a conference because they're making money off of it. And I just don't want to misuse public funds for something that's lavish if we can do it within a budget that's just more in keeping with our with our humble existence as the smallest New York City agency on a public dime.
Way to be responsible.
Darren and Zane, I just dropped four software companies into the chat. Everyone can take a look. So these are 4 that I've been looking at. Hopin is one that was also recommended by several people to me. So that's one. I did find it a little expensive, but if the committee wants to take a look at those 4, the other ones are ExpoPass, WebCourseWorks, and Mighty Networks. So if anyone's interested in this topic and like checking it out a little more, I'd love feedback.
Which one, Anya, did you say was the one you thought was a little pricier?
Oh, Hopin was actually the first one that was recommended to me when I was doing outreach. So I just found it jumps from like a $99 package up to like a $700 something right away to get that more bulk. So yeah, that was a little tricky, but feel free if anyone is interested, wants to look at these, I'd love some feedback.
Okay, very good. Thank you for sharing that, Anya. Sorry, I'm not sure.
Anya, can you put those in the link, please?
Oh, sorry, I thought I did that. I'll put it in again.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself again there. So Jonathan, I mean, unless we have anything else to discuss, maybe we can move on to the other business. Are there any questions from committee members, board members, guests? No, as they like to say on the record, seeing officially no questions or comments, I'd like to move on to the 3rd agenda item, which is any other business. I see again that we are joined here by Officer Joseph from the 70th Precinct's Community Affairs Unit, sorry. And I welcome him to address our little assembly here and bring us up to date on anything going on in the precinct.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for having me join the meeting. Just happy to be here and offer any assistance that we can from the 7th Precinct. We wanted to have the youth community, the YCOs join because they do want to also engage and also provide any help and also any other initiatives that are available for the young people. They are willing to help, but they are off today, so they couldn't make the meeting. But I will catch them up on what's been discussed, and however they can be assistance and however we can be assistance, we definitely will. As far as anything going on within the 7-0, there's nothing major. We just have been getting some complaints for some quality of life issues that we've been taking care of them, and we've also been working closely with the neighborhood coordination officers as well for some of those quality of life complaints that we're receiving. A lot of them happen to be noise and things with vehicles, but pertaining youth, the one thing that does come to mind is just some of the young people that have been getting in trouble, and our youth coordination officer has been following up with them. A lot of them are coming from other parts of the city and committing some crimes here. One being like grand loss in GLAs that they've been getting, and they get arrested here, but we're finding that they're coming from other parts of the city. But other than that, nothing major to report. And that's it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time and for updating us on that. Also, I know I introduced you earlier, but I'm going to introduce you again. Ask you to just quickly touch on a few, tell us what's going on with Health and Hospital. So Monique Chandler Waterman, let us know if there's anything you'd like to add regarding Health and Hospitals or Test and Trace.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me to this wonderful meeting. I love to work with the youth, and we're also trying to figure out ways that the youth can get involved with Test and Trace. So I'm looking forward to this youth council and being, using them as a great resource, because there is an uptick when it comes to the youth, 13 to 17, as well as the senior citizens, as we know. So with that effect, we are actually doing a rollout I'm sorry, I'm the Brooklyn Outreach Director for Test and Trace. I'll put my information in the chat. But we're doing a rollout with NYCHA facilities in the various zip codes that we'll call, I guess, a hot zone, for lack of a better term right now. And what we're doing is we're doing door knocking, grassroots, phone banking, on the ground knocking, and the doors, and actually registering the seniors at their doors for appointments in certain NYCHA facilities. So I'll keep y'all updated with where we're going next. I believe this week is Cypress Hills, NYCHA, and there's one other that slipped my mind, but we're gonna be there for Brooklyn. We also wanna make sure that people know they call 877-VAX, the number 4 NYC, if they have any questions about the vaccination a process, whether it's booking appointments, eligibility, and of course, if your preference is not to take the vaccination or you're not eligible, we still need to get tested. Go to 212 COVID-19 or go to nyc.gov/COVID test to find the nearest testing site. And even if you do get vaccinated, you still have to wear a mask, you still have to wash your hands, you still have to do 6 feet social distance and stay home if you're not feeling well. We know it's 94% efficiency rate, so it's not 100%. So we still need to follow those positive behaviors to make sure that we keep our New Yorkers healthy and safe. So, and I wanna make sure everybody know about our Take Care program. So if you are tested positive for COVID-19, we do have free hotel stay, free delivery for medication, food. And that resource has not been utilized a lot. So we just need people to promote it more because people may need to isolate but not know that that service is offered. So that's also going by 212 COVID-19, and you can find out all the resources that we have because we're all in this together. So thank you so much.
Thank you. So outside of that, I think, unless Jonathan, you have something else, I just want to let everyone know that the calendar, again, our calendars and agendas for Community Board 14's March meetings are up. We have a general board meeting on Monday, March 8th at 6:30 p.m. And our next Youth Service Committee is scheduled for Wednesday, March 24th at 6:30 p.m. Please share the link of the website to get with your friends, your neighbors, people in the district, get them familiar with the board, get them familiar with the activities of the board, get them familiar with the schedule of the board. The more we engage, the more we get out of this. And I am taking this very personally because, and I'm sorry, Sean, I have to say it, at one of our board meetings recently, we had, or it was a committee meeting recently, we had community members kind of saying that our board wasn't disseminating information widely, or they were implying that. And I can say that this board does a lot to get the word out. And I feel like, that was a direct kind of hit to our team in the office, and I didn't think it was fair. And I think as board members, we have a responsibility. That's why we've been appointed to these roles, because we're advocates in our sections of the community, but we also know the importance of engagement. So we should be trying our best to get the word out about the meetings and the calendars. Our board does a lot of great work. The team, the staff does a lot of really good work, and we should be encouraging more and more of it. So wherever we can, we should be doing our due diligence and lifting our part of this and getting the word out about the meetings.
Dwayne, I appreciate that, and especially of support. But that said, I'm also happy to take the criticism, because where we can do better, we would like to know, what that is, so that we can, endeavor to improve. It's all strange. And we've been doing this for a while now, but we're still figuring it out. And so please feel free to let us know what you see as something that could be improved, and we'll work on it. And just in terms of getting the word out, not only do we have a board meeting on March 8th, but it will be preceded. So we're really going to start at 6 o'clock on the 8th, because we have a public hearing on facilities. I can't remember what the document is called. Anya, do you remember? But it's on capital projects in the district, which we don't have any that are slated in the capital plan. So it could be a short meeting, but we might prolong it with a conversation about what should be in that plan and isn't, which this board will probably focus on, that being the 70th Police Precinct House. So join us. It will be interesting.
All right. So with that, Michelle, do you have anything you want to add? Michelle? Hi, Michelle. Michelle? Do you have anything you want to add as a committee member for the Youth Service Committee? No? Okay. So I guess that's it, folks. As I used to say as a bouncer, you ain't got to go home. But you're going to get out of here. So I'll see you guys hopefully on the 8th of March for the general meeting. There are a few committee meetings in between now and then, so please check out the calendar and share it widely. Thank you all for your participation, and we're officially closing the meeting 7:31, less than an hour. All right, have a good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Great
You too.
meeting.
Bye.